What is going on, YouTube? Welcome to my official Season 17 tier list for Overwatch Stadium. Before we get started, I just want to put out some qualifiers for the list. This is going to be based on PC for the higher elos, medium to high elo for the most part. But the main thing I want to say about where the rankings or where heroes are going to be ranked is it's going to be based on whatever their single best build is. If a character has the most broken build in the entire game, but he has nothing else that he can possibly go because it's all terrible, it's still going to be S tier. If someone has like 10 viable builds, like you're not like growing by building them, but not a single one of them is like very good, then that's like C tier. And if you are hurting your team just by picking that hero because they don't have a single good build, that is where D tier is going. A and B are going to fall somewhere between the A and C, obviously. Yeah, just so you guys know why there might be some outliers compared to where you'd normally see heroes. But just to get started, nothing's really changed. We're gonna start with D.Va, and she's still in the C tier. It felt like she got some nerfs, and they're gonna buff her in the future. And also, Sigma, the addition of Sigma doesn't really help her out too much. Sigma's another really terrible matchup for her. Zarya did get slightly nerfed, but still like an unplayable matchup for D.Va. Reinhardt you can't do a whole lot into. Like, she just doesn't have good matchups. I think Winston, with her just, I'm just going to assume that because she counters Winston so hard in the base game, when Winston comes out, that will really help her out. But she's still C tier. She has a few viable builds. Nothing's like super overpowered. She's in a better spot than at launch, and probably maybe even probably not better than mid season. But like she's in an okay spot. Like it's not a throw pick to pick her. I've actually faced some really good divas that have absolutely popped off. So she is a viable pick. Next up, we're gonna have Junker Queen, and I'm gonna put her in the B tier. I think she fell down a little bit with the shout reset build kind of going away. Because with that build, if you just got one kill and you keep resetting your shout, you and your team become unkillable. And you get the wounds spread on everybody. You can make the wounds like put liquid nitrogen on them and cyber venom, just like they're super slowed, can't get away from you. That build is kind of nerfed. Her carnage builds are still good, but I think Sigma's a good matchup for her, but like I'm just not seeing her played. I think just the shout nerf is kind of hurting her. I'm not seeing her a whole lot anymore. I'm not playing her as much as I did when she first came out, because when she first launched, she was like my go-to tank. Now I think she is probably the 4th best tank. So that's why I'm going to put her down in the B tier. Next up, we have Orisa. And I'm going to put Orisa in the B tier as well. I think she is slightly worse than Junker Queen, but she does have better builds than D.Va. Like her survivability build is incredibly hard to kill. She's so tanky. And if this was just her best build and it was into Reinhardt, she's an S plus pick. You go with that deflect. But because that build's only S plus into Reinhardt and not just S plus into everybody, I'm going to keep her into B tier. Because I don't think that build works against like Zarya or Sigma or any other tank. It just works against Reinhardt. So I know I said it's just their best build, but it's like best build against everybody, not best build against one single tank counter. So B tier. She also has her overheat build, which is still kind of trash. Having Sigma with an extra shield that wants to play at range doesn't help it either. The AP build, again, having an extra shield from Sigma doesn't help either. So I think B tier, and you have to go to her survivability build for the most part. Next up, we have Sigma, and I'm just going to put him straight into the S tier. I think he is the most broken tank in the game. I've played so many games on him just in this first week and a half of Stadium since his launch, and I've only lost 3 games, and all 3 of them were because I was trying to make the AP rock build work. That build is useless, never go it. But his full weapon power builds, his full shield builds, his full tank and heal builds, they're all super strong. His ultimate just naturally scales into the game because it has 50% of your max life on the slam. And like tanks in like round 6 or 7 are gonna have upwards of 1,000 like health. And so your ult just naturally scales and you go weapon power, so you're doing a lot of damage. and he's just absolutely insane. Plus, that Philharmonic, what's it called? Philharmonic Fortitude power, where shields like constantly regenerating. He always has shields up. He's always putting out a ton of damage. He has CC. He is a very well-rounded tank for Stadium, and I think you should pick him up if you haven't already. I think his only tougher matchup is Reinhardt, where Reinhardt can punish his positioning pretty well. But other than Reinhardt, he dominates the other tanks. Next up, we have Reinhardt, and I'm going to keep him in the A tier. He's still in a good spot. I actually like the Fire Strike changes for his AP build, where the Fire Strike lava comes out every second Fire Strike, not doing 2 consecutive Fire Strikes in a short time, because it kind of made that power really bad because you'd have to save up to get your Fire Strikes to shoot them back to back. But now that you don't have to save them, it's just every other one does it. It makes it a way better item. I think like an AP mixed with survivability build is his best way to go, because the AP allows you to kill people with pin and fire strikes, and you have some survivability so that when you're in there brawling, you're not going to die. But still A tier for now. Also, I think, like I said, this was more of a high elo skewed tier list, but in lower elos, I could easily see him being S tier, but I think A is a good spot for him. Zarya, I think some people still may have her in S tier, but with the nerfs, I'm actually going to drop her down to A, because I think Sigma, she's closer to Reinhardt than she is to Sigma, in my opinion. Sigma's not a good matchup for her, despite her being able to beam through the grasp. Like, if he goes that Philharmonic Fortitude power, his shield is always up, and Zarya just like can't melt it. So I think the right-click build is Zarya's best build as well. Now that it does less damage, but it does give you ult charge. And the fact that it gives you ult charge means you're going to get your grab way faster. Grab's such a great ultimate. Probably like a top 2 to 3 ultimate, or at least a top 2 to 3 non-support ultimate in the game. And so it just allows your team to follow up and actually kill things. So I think high A tier is a great spot for her. Now we're getting on to the DPS. And I'm going to put Ashe in the A tier. I think before the Bob nerf, that Bob build was like so freaking annoying that maybe it could have warranted a low S tier. But I think A tier is a great spot for her. She has a lot of viable builds, but they're all like pretty elite builds. Because if the enemy team has like Freya, Juno, Mercy, like a lot of flyers, she can go like a hit scan weapon power build. But most of the time you want to be going your AP build. But she has all 3 AP builds are equally as good, because you can go Coach Gun, you can go Dynamite, and you can go Bob. And most of the time you can even combine like 2 of the 3 together. And all the AP builds are insanely good, especially in the right situation. I think that some people have her in like B and C, I'm seeing. But like, I just don't think they understand how good she is and how low skill the AP build is to actually achieve its max potential. Just feel like timing, positioning, and landing like, oh, I threw a dynamite, shot it. Okay, now they're all dead. Throw a coach gun in there and a Bob. Team wipe. It's so stupid and so strong. A tier for her. Now Cassidy is the reason I put in that big disclaimer at the beginning, or the big qualifier at the beginning, because they nerfed his Fan the Hammer build, which is like one of his 2 builds ago. His weapon power build, it has to be nerfed somehow. Like, so give him a worse ratio on the AP scaling or something like that, or don't let him go third person, or I don't know what they can do to nerf his third person, or not third person, his weapon power build. Just the standard Cassidy, just his gun does twice as much damage. That one build has been the most broken cast build from the beginning, been the most broken DPS build from the beginning, and they haven't touched it. But like, the reason I kind of get why they're not touching it, because he has no other options. They need to rework all of his powers, or most of his powers, so he has like an AP option, where he has some just he has like some other options to build. But that weapon power build has been the best build in the entire game, besides maybe Juno torpedoes, since launch. And it's just so freaking broken. Next up we have Genji. Genji, I'm between A and B. I'm gonna stick him in B tier. He really only has that melee build that kind of scales into his ultimate. The problem is it starts to fall off in the late game. So, like I've played a lot of really good Genjis that just tear through me and my team like round 1 and 2. Round 3, we'll get our second powers. He becomes okay. Round 5, once we get our third power, he's just like worthless. He only has that one build, and that one build is solid. But I think overall, I'm gonna keep him in the B tier. Plus, it takes a high amount of skill to like be good at that build, or like Ash's builds. Like anyone can do the AP builds. So I think the B tier is a good spot for him. Next up, we have Freya, and I'm gonna put Freya in the A tier as well. I'm gonna be honest, I really don't know what Freyas are going right now because they all kind of hurt equally as bad. But a really good Freya can dominate a game. And I'm just not seeing it very often because I think she's new and very high skill. So like the people that are playing Stadium haven't put the time in to learn her, and the higher skill people that have put the time in to learn her are playing regular comp. But whenever I do see a good Freya, she just controls an entire lobby. She's so evasive. She does so much freaking damage. Give her a mercy pocket, and she'll kill everybody so fast. Next up we have Junkrat, the new addition to Stadium this season. And honestly, like I had such hopes for Junkrat. The first day he came out, I played him nonstop trying to figure out like what his good builds were. I didn't find any, if I'm being honest. Like I found a fun melee build, but that was kind of it. I'm between C and D tier. I said D tier was like you're trolling your team by playing him. I don't think he's quite that bad. Like into Rhine and Sigma, he's very, very good because he can melt their shields if he goes a weapon power build and just spams the shields, causes chaos in that death ball they're kind of trying to go. He obviously struggles really heavily into flyers like Juno, Mercy, Freya, especially Freya. I guess Mercy too, like that, because just they can't be. He can't really touch them. They gave him items to try and help with that, and you kind of have to go AP at that point. But his AP builds are kind of meh. I think weapon power is what you want to go into a meatball-y tank like Reinhardt or Orisa or Sigma. Yeah. I think I don't know what they need to do to really buff him. It's just he's inconsistent. Like if you're landing all your shots, it's Junkrat. You're doing a ton of damage and it's great. But Stadium I feel like it relies on consistency, which he just doesn't provide. So C tier is where he's going to start for now. Hopefully they buff him. I can see him being the hero that gets a buff in the mid-season because he's new and underwhelming. So we'll see where he's at mid-season. Next up we have Mei, and I think I put Mei in C last time, and I think I definitely underrated her. But I'm just going to bring her up to B this time. She does have good build variety in the fact that like into Orisas and Queens and Divas she can go a weapon power build. And like into Ryan and Sigma, her AP builds are really dominant there. She has build variety into every single matchup. The problem is her AP builds really suck in the early game. I think like pre-round 5, her AP builds are like some of the worst AP builds in the entire game. But if you get her to around 7, she is probably the single best AP build in the whole game. If you go like the snowball that explodes, and then you have your blizzard around the snowball. Like you can one-shot anybody with that. Round 7 if you're going full AP, and you can't escape because they probably have liquid nitrogen. So like a round 7 AP Mei is like the single best hero in Stadium, besides maybe healing Soldier 76 build. But in those early rounds, she kind of struggles. If you go weapon power, you kind of start to fall off around round 4 or 5. I think B is like an overall good spot for her. Reaper, I'm going to keep him in the C tier, but I think he's the best. I think he's the best of all the C tier options. Also, I'm going to go through and reorganize these most likely. Actually, no, I'll organize them within their own class, but I'm not going to organize them like. I'll keep all the tanks on the left, all the DPS in the middle, and all the supports on the right. He's better than Junkrat. They tried to buff his AP build. I think they just have to fundamentally change how the teleport works, where you get into your Death Blossom, but on your teleport, you should be allowed to cancel it, or he shouldn't have like a movement speed penalty or something like that. Because you kind of just animation lock yourself every time you try and teleport, and like Sigma Rock can stun you. Literally everything in the game is just gonna turn and start shooting you. Like they're trying to give him overhealth so he can just tank it, but like I don't think that's the move. His weapon builds are super strong in the beginning. He did get like that base game buff to give him more raw damage, which does help his weapon power builds. But again, his weapon power builds, just like May, round 4 or 5 will really start to fall off. You kind of just want to be flanking and causing chaos in the backline while your team hopefully gets a couple kills. But then again, you're relying on your team. Once he gets all his resets though, and he has like, if he has like the eliminations reset his cooldown stuff and his weapon power, he does become very tricky to kill. But it's more he needs like a good teammate or two to help him achieve his max. I'm gonna keep him in the C tier. Next up, we have Soldier 76. He's got the most viable builds out of anybody in the game. I think he's actually up to 5, like five viable builds, and I think 3 or 4 of them are pretty strong. So I'm between low A tier and high B tier. I'm gonna put him in A tier. He has his Tac Visor build still, which is probably the one I see. It's tied for what I see most common for like when he stomps. Just kind of max out your weapon power, got a little bit of attack speed, so you get an extra bullet in your visor, and you can just flank, kind of focus the backline squishies, and you should be able to melt one really quick, especially if you land your Helix. He also has this Helix rocket build, which I think is the other build I see him go a lot. Again, same thing, you kind of want to flank, get a Helix rocket onto someone in the backline that's not expecting it. And you can actually throw your like the visor ability into that like round 5. And you can assassinate somebody as well. His healing build, it's still so much fun. I think that's like the single worst build you can possibly go in the game from round 1 to 4. You hit round 5, you're one of the strongest characters in the game, and nothing will beat a round 7 soldier healing build if you build it correctly and like get the right powers. But the one thing they did change with him in this season was he has a power called Frontliners, and whenever you drop a Helix field or your Biotic field, you give shields to you and your teammates that are within your Biotic field. And he has a second power called Bunker Down, where whenever you land a Helix rocket, you drop a Biotic field. And they updated the Frontliners power to allow you to stack the overhealth. You can make your team pretty freaking tanky. So again, that gave him a 5th viable build. He also has his chain gun build, which I haven't seen in a while, if I'm being honest. But it's still playable into like Reinhardt's, Orissa's, maybe a Sigma. But Reinhardt and Orissa for sure, you can go with that chain gun build and just keep shooting the meatball tank that they got. But that's gonna do it for the DPS. Any order swaps in the classes? Maybe Freya. I'm gonna keep Freya there. I think it's fine. Reaper's going up. I think is the one that really has to be done. These two are pretty much equal. If you want to swap them, I'm cool with that. I think Genji's clearly better than Mei. If you want to put Junkrat in D tier, I could understand that, but I'm gonna keep him in C because I don't think he's like a total throw pick. Also, yeah, if you want to move Soldier down to B tier above Genji, I could also see that as well. But I think A tier is a good spot for Soldier. Okay, now we're going to move into the DPS. And this is going to be our first D tier pick, absolute throw pick, and that is Ana. Unfortunately, I really love Ana, but the problem is in Stadium, the game is way too fast paced. Sleep darts and nades kind of lose a lot of their effectiveness when everybody has double the health and double the damage. Because, I mean, you think double the health and double the damage, you'd have like similar time to kills. Like nade in the tank fight doesn't really matter unless you're nading somebody that's like a quarter HP. Whereas if you like if they're even half HP, they're gonna have it wear off before you can kill them. And there's even some items you can go to like counter her abilities. I think there's that one like blue survival item where it's like 40% reduction on like nade timing, sleep timings. It's like super cheap. adding Sigma just brings another shield into the game that can, and he has grasp as well. So it's another tank that has 2 ways to counter all of her abilities. And I just don't think Ana's in a great spot. You're pretty much throwing by picking her, even if you're going like trying your best and going a good build. Like she has fun builds, like the sleep dart build's fun, the nade builds are fun. I think her best build is you have a Reinhardt or an Orisa, and you go full weapon power and just pocket the crap out of them. I think it's like machine gun build where you can like get like 25 unscoped shots without reloading. I think that's her best build. But you kind of need like a tank that needs resources and just front lines and kind of takes the pressure away from you. But yeah, there's too much mobility that she just can't keep up with. I'm gonna keep her in the D tier. Now we have Juno, still in the S tier as usual. They keep trying to work with torpedo build. Torpedo build is not going anywhere. It's still super strong. It's a lot of fun though. One thing I like what they're doing with Juno is like they tried to rework the damage so it changed. It wasn't like one-shotting people, or I guess two-shotting people if you get double the torpedo. So it was like a successful rework in that. It's definitely not as broken as it was. And then they're buffing her ring build, which is like another fun alternative, so you can give your team a lot of overhealth. A build that's slowly catching on, but I haven't seen it too much, is that build where she can just fly in the air forever, and like nobody can ever interact with her, and you get some torpedoes off. If your tank needs some healing, it kind of is rough, but like you're never dying, and it's a lot of fun. So like it's another alternative. And I think her weapon power builds are very underrated. Like if you have a tank that needs a lot of resources, like Reinhardt or Orisa, she can pocket them very well if she goes a weapon power build. So she has a lot of viable builds, but torpedoes is still like where it's at. That's why she's in S tier, and that's why she's gonna stay in S tier probably until they get that build. Now, next up we have KarQ, and I said last time I did a tier list, I think I had her in like low B tier, and I said I was just a lifelong KarQ hater. I'm still a KarQ hater, but I know her clone build is the most broken thing in the freaking game, and it's so annoying. I don't know if it's the most broken. It's literally the most bug broken thing in the game. Like holy crap, that build is so annoying to play against. And somehow it didn't get nerfed on the day of the new season, but like they did a hotfix nerf like 2 days later. So our clones now are only up for 2.5 seconds instead of 5. That clone build needs to fucking go. 2.5 seconds is the least manageable. I don't see it every game. I was getting tired of just shooting clones all the time. The only thing I didn't mind about it, she had to hit headshots near backline for it to be like viable, but just the clones do too much damage. They also need to fix it so you can actually see what the clones like. The clone's damage and the clone's healing does not show up on the scoreboard like when you press tab, and they need to fix that. Not necessarily for like her to get more cash or anything, but so that people can see what she's actually doing and like the stats she's putting up. Because sometimes she'll have like 1,000 heals like at the end of every round because her clones are doing the healing and she's just DPSing. So realistically, she probably did like 4, 5, 6,000 healing. It's only showing 1,000. So I think that's a small thing. Is that way bad KarQs that do the clone build don't get flamed as hard. But yeah, get rid of that clone build. The other build she has, double Suzu builds and stuff, I'm not a really big fan of. I think those are on the weaker side. Those more anti-carry than carry, and I'd put her in B. The one build that I've played against like 2 or 3 times and I hate it is the like her ult slows people or slows enemies by like 50 or 80% or something like that. You can even like throw in a liquid nitrogen on that thing, and if you just hit like 3 people on the enemy team, they're just like rooted and they can't move. That build's super annoying to play against as well. But those builds are probably more in the B tier. Her clone build is why she is in S tier. Except we have Lucio. I'm gonna put him right into the A tier. Actually, no, A tier? B tier. Sorry, my bad. They nerfed his it was like the build he was going every game where he got a bunch of healing just by pressing his boop. But they did give him a base game buff, so he just gets generally more healing. And you could definitely argue him for A tier. If you want to put him in A tier, I'm okay with that. He doesn't synergize super well with Sigma. He synergizes amazingly with like Zarya, Ryan, and Clean. I think those are the three he kind of likes the most. But if you want to put him in A tier, like I was a top 500 Lucio player for a couple years back in the day. I love Lucio. I love playing him in the stadium. But I just don't think he's like objectively one of the 3 or 4 best supports right now. Despite he may have an insane win rate, but I think part of that win rate is like his Lucio just gives heals or speed by existing, and so even in bad Lucio, still going to give his team some value. So I think B tier is a good spot for him. Now we have Mercy. I'm gonna put Mercy in A tier. I think Mercy is actually the best support at pocketing tanks, which is like the complete opposite of the base game. I think it's kind of funny. Where in the base game she like never wants to interact with her own tanks besides rezzing them, and now she's just really good at pocketing tanks. But she can also pocket DPS. She's a pocket. That's what she does. She has a lot of really good builds. But the main reason I'm going to put her in S or A over S is her builds are not as broken as KarQ and Juno, and she can't solo carry a game. She can heavily influence the game, that's for sure, but she can't like solo carry. She needs at least one teammate to be somewhat decent. So that's why I'm gonna put her in A tier. Now Moira is going to be probably my most controversial of all the places I'm gonna put her, and I'm gonna put her in the S tier. And for the same reason Cassidy's in the S tier, where her orb build, if you build it correctly, if you haven't watched my video on how to correctly build the Moira orb build, go watch it. I think my win rate's up to like 95% on like 50 something games with that build. It's nearly impossible to lose when you build the orb build correctly. Like, so most people AP max the orb build and just go full AP, or if they have go orb build, they try and flank too much. Like, orb build's not meant for flanking. Stay within your team and heal them, and just throw your orbs out there. They'll do their work. And don't go AP maxing, because I think at like 120% AP, your orbs only do like 400 and something damage. So like they're not really gonna. That's the main orb. If you throw in the small orbs, they do like 500 something damage. 600. They don't even kill a Roadhog in the practice range at like max AP. So like chances that one person is going to take all of that in a stadium game is very unlikely. But if you get multi-orb and you're throwing like a liquid nitrogen cyber venom orb out there, the entire team is going to at least get tickled by it, and that's 3 seconds at minimum that they're all anti-healed and all slowed, and like their entire team just can't move, and that's on like a 6-second cooldown, 7-second cooldown. Plus you farm up your ult so incredibly fast, you can use your ult like every other team fight, and now with your ultimate, now you're slowing and anti-healing the entire enemy team through your ult while healing your own. That one build is insanely broken. It needs a nerf. Like, it needs a nerf because of liquid nitrogen and cyber venom applying off of it. But like just the regular full AP maxing or build does not really need a nerf. So I don't know how they would counterbalance that. Her weapon power builds and like her fade builds and stuff like that, they're all right. If you want to go flank Moira, do those. But those are going to put you in like C tier, maybe B tier. That the correct build of the Moira or build is so freaking broken. If KarQ clone wasn't in the game, that'd probably be the most broken build. I'm gonna put KarQ just because of her clone. They did nerf it though. I'll leave it like this. Juno's still at the top. Just she has a lot of broken builds. KarQ is only up there because of her clone. Moira's only up there because of her core build. Cass is only up there because of his weapon power build. Sigma's the only one that's up there that has. I guess Sigma and Juno both have at least 2 viable builds to belong in S tier. Oh, I still have one more character to go. Forgot about the newest edition of Zenyatta. In Zenyatta, when I first saw his powers, when I just thought of Zenyatta coming in here, I thought that's going to be the most broken thing ever to come into existence. Like having Discord Orb scale on a ton of things. I think they did Zenyatta. The powers are super creative and a lot of fun. And now I think they can tune the numbers to make him a little better, because I think Zenyatta belongs in B tier. just the fact Discord exists is really, really good. And I'm glad they didn't make Discord scale off of AP. They have a couple powers that make Discord do things that scale off of AP. But Discord, like the base stats of Discord don't scale, and that's a really good thing. So I know the melee flying kick build is his most popular build. That's probably the best one to go a good amount of the times. His AP builds, yes, you get a little bit more healing out of them, but I don't think his AP builds are that great. I think the other build that's pretty strong, if you have a lot of good aim, is his right click build. I think it was like my first game of the season, and I played a Zenyatta that went full right click build that had a mercy pocket on it. And I think every fight he would one shot like 3 people, and I was like, that's the scariest thing I ever saw. That was my first impression of Zenyatta in the stadium. I've only seen like one person even come close to recreating that. I find most Zenyatas don't really know what they're doing. They're trying stuff out. Maybe once Zenyatta actually gets a finalized like best 2 to 3 builds by the community, not necessarily what I think the 2 or 3 best builds are. Maybe it'll get better. Maybe it'll go into A tier, or people start to play him a little safer. I think just having Discord up is so much value that if you play in the back and are just like impossible to kill or even get to in the right matchups, then that's where Zenyatta's strength is. I think he's B tier. I'm gonna keep him below Lucio. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna keep this order too. So if you're ranking who's the single, Cassidy's still the single strongest build in probably the whole game. KarQ and Muma are like very close seconds. Those three need nerfs. They're only up here because they have one insanely broken build. I'm gonna write this out. Yeah, I'm not gonna write anything out. I've told you guys enough why they're up there. And yeah, A tier, they got every single person in A tier has multiple really strong builds, but nothing's like broken that needs a nerf. B tier, again, everything here except for Genji and Orisa has at least 2 viable builds they can go. Genji and Orisa I think their other builds need buffs, but their viable builds are in a good spot. The C tier people, they need to buff them somehow. I think D.Va's the toughest because she's good on console. They need to buff them so they have at least one consistent build that's a little bit better. And Ana, I don't know what they're gonna do to Ana. I think Ana just as a character is not made for Stadium, or people just refuse. They want to go the flashy sleep nade builds, and they need to stick with weapon power on Ana. That's where true strength is in the Stadium. Yeah, so that's gonna do it for my tier list, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or have any differences of opinion where you would rank things, let me know down in the comments below. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe as well. I make a lot of Sigma Stadium guides. I just dropped, not Sigma Stadium guides, I just made his yesterday, and that's why I'm mad. I make a lot of Hero Stadium guides. I have Sigma, Zarya, Rhine, Soldier, and I've done a couple Ashe builds, so that you can see a few different builds. I've done Moira, I've done Juno. About half the cast right now. I think the next guide I'm going to work on is either Junkrat or Zenyatta. Try and learn them through this new meta. So if you're interested in any of those guides that I'll have coming out soon, make sure you subscribe. And with that, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.